When you grow up as the daughter of a superstar, the world sees your last name first, and your heart last. For Riley Burruss, being Kandi's daughter wasn't just a title, it was a shadow she lived under every day. But beneath that shadow was a little girl trying desperately to be seen, not as a celebrity's child, but simply as herself. From the moment Riley was born, cameras were there. Lights, flashbulbs, whispers about what she should be, what she might become. But the little girl behind the fame wasn't ready for that spotlight. She was quiet, thoughtful, often retreating into herself. It wasn't always obvious. But slowly, Riley began to pull away. Where other kids laughed and shouted, she was silent. Where others asked for attention, she hid from it. Her smile sometimes felt forced, like she was playing a role that didn't fit. And then came the internet. Comments about her weight, her looks, her style, sometimes cruel, sometimes careless. Who does she think she is? She's just riding her mom's fame. Words that cut deeper than anyone could see. At school, at home, everywhere she went, Riley felt the pressure. Not just to be perfect, but to be someone else's idea of perfect. That pressure built quietly, and the little girl inside began to shrink. This was the shadow Riley lived in. A world where her own voice was drowned out by expectations. But this is only the beginning of her journey. Because sometimes, the darkest shadows teach us how to find the brightest light. Silence isn't always empty. Sometimes, it's full of words that are too heavy to say. For Riley, that silence spoke volumes. But no one was listening. When Riley didn't answer questions, or stayed quiet in the crowd, many thought she was shy or aloof. Some even said she was spoiled or didn't care. But they didn't see the storm inside. The fear of being misunderstood. The struggle to find a safe place to just be. Even with friends around, Riley felt alone. Because she wasn't just a girl trying to fit in. She was the daughter of Kandi Burruss. And that came with invisible walls. Walls built by strangers' expectations. And the constant feeling that her true self wasn't enough. It wasn't that her family didn't love her. They did fiercely. But sometimes love wasn't loud enough to reach inside her quiet. In moments when Riley needed to speak, she chose silence instead. Because silence felt safer. But Kandi saw the signs. She saw the way Riley's eyes would look away. The way she held herself back. She heard the unspoken words beneath the quiet. Kandi knew this silence wasn't just teenage moodiness. It was a silent cry for help. A heart waiting to be heard. The silence nobody heard was the loudest sound in Riley's world. And it was the first step on a path. That would change everything. Because sometimes healing begins in the quiet. Sometimes love doesn't shout. Sometimes it whispers in the quiet moments. In the gentle look, the soft touch, the steady presence. For Kandi Burruss and her daughter Riley, love was that quiet force holding them together. Kandi didn't rush to fix things she couldn't see. Instead, she watched and listened. She noticed the small signs. How Riley would hesitate before speaking. How she sometimes pulled away when cameras were around. She understood that forcing words or answers wouldn't help. What Riley needed was space. Space to feel safe. Space to grow. There were quiet talks late at night. Just the two of them, away from the world. Sometimes Kandi would simply sit beside Riley, offering comfort without pressure. Other times she would share her own stories. Her fears, her doubts, her dreams. Showing Riley she wasn't alone. Kandi's love was steady, never demanding. She believed that confidence could not be forced. It had to be nurtured. And so she guided Riley gently, encouraging her to explore her own path. Without the weight of expectations, that quiet love became a safe harbor for Riley. Slowly she began to trust. Trust in herself, trust in her mother's support. Trust that she could find her own voice. It wasn't a sudden change, but a steady growth rooted in love and patience. In a world that often demands noise and action, Kandi showed that sometimes, the strongest love is the love that waits, watches, and whispers. I'm here. I see you. I believe in you. Growing up in the spotlight isn't like growing up anywhere else. For Riley Burruss, childhood was a battlefield, caught between the innocence she deserved and the fame she inherited. On one side, she was just a kid who wanted to laugh, play, and be carefree. On the other hand, she was Kandi's daughter, a title that came with cameras, critics, and constant attention. She felt the pull of both worlds, but neither seemed to fully accept her. The internet was unforgiving. Comments about her weight, her clothes, her every move piled up like stones on her shoulders. Every negative word chipped away at her confidence, making her question who she really was beneath the spotlight's glare. Being on the Real Housewives of Atlanta meant living life on display. Every smile was scrutinized, every tear magnified. Privacy was a luxury she rarely had, and the pressure to perform, to be perfect, was relentless. But through it all, Kandi did everything she could to shield Riley. She fought off the negativity, stood up for her daughter, and reminded her that her worth wasn't measured by public opinion. Still, the battle took its toll. Riley wrestled with balancing childhood innocence and the harsh realities of fame. Some days it felt like the scales would tip too far, and she'd lose herself completely. This was the fight Riley faced every day, to hold on to who she was inside, while the world tried to define her. But every battle has a turning point, and Riley's was coming. Sometimes, the hardest step is simply to speak. For Riley, finding her voice wasn't just about words. It was about reclaiming herself. After years of silence and self-doubt, there came a moment when Riley decided she wouldn't hide anymore. She wanted to be heard, not as someone else's daughter, but as her own person. Kandi was there every step of the way. With gentle words and unwavering support, she encouraged Riley to express herself, to share her feelings, her dreams, her struggles. She reminded Riley that her voice was powerful, that it mattered, and that speaking her truth was the first step to freedom. Riley began to open up, first in small ways with trusted friends and family, then in bigger ways through social media, interviews, and public appearances. Each time she spoke, her confidence grew stronger. Finding her voice changed everything. It gave Riley control over her story. It let her rewrite the narrative that others had tried to write for her. And most importantly, it helped her heal. From the quiet little girl who once felt invisible, Riley had become a young woman who was proud, strong, and heard. Her voice wasn't just words, it was her power. Being a mother in the spotlight isn't easy. For Kandi Burruss, protecting her daughter's heart meant learning lessons no one teaches you. Lessons about love, sacrifice, and strength. Kandi knew the bright lights of fame could both shine and burn. She wanted Riley to have the best of both worlds, to chase dreams without losing herself. But that balance was fragile, and sometimes it felt impossible to hold. Kandi's greatest job wasn't managing a career. It was shielding Riley's heart from the noise, the judgment, the pressure. She learned when to step in and when to step back, when to speak up and when to listen, all to give Riley the space to grow strong on her own terms. Fame made their journey different, but the core was the same as any mother and daughter. Unconditional love, patience, belief. Kandi's story isn't just about celebrity. It's about a mother's fierce determination to raise a daughter who knows her worth. Their journey shows us that behind every headline, behind every camera, there is a real family, with real struggles, real love, and real hope. And sometimes the greatest victory isn't fame or fortune. It's the love that helps us become who we truly are. In the end, this wasn't just a story about a girl who grew up in the spotlight. It was about a mother who chose love over pressure, and a daughter who found strength in her silence and turned it into power. Riley Burruss didn't become confident because of cameras. She became confident in spite of them, because behind her was a mother who saw her pain and stood by her, quietly, fiercely, always. And maybe that's the real legacy, not fame, not fortune, but the unbreakable bond between a mother and daughter, who walked through fire together and came out shining. She put her head down. Her hands were sweating. Her stomach felt like it was flipping over. After class, Leah caught up to her. "Riley, are you okay?" Riley just nodded. "I can't talk about it right now." Leah looked worried. "Please don't do anything crazy, okay?" "I won't," Riley whispered, but even she wasn't sure what crazy meant anymore. At lunch, Riley didn't eat again. She sat with her head in her hands. Her mind was full of noise. What if I'm really pregnant? What if it grows inside me? What if my mom finds out? What will she say? Will she still love me? The fear never stopped. Later that evening, back at home, Kandi was cooking dinner. She called out, "Riley, come set the table, please." Riley didn't answer. She was lying on her bed, staring at the ceiling again. Kandi walked into her room. "You've been really quiet lately. Is something going on at school?" Riley quickly sat up. "No, everything's fine." Kandi looked at her daughter closely. "Are you sure?" "Yes, Mom. I'm just tired. I've got homework." Kandi hesitated. She wanted to push more, but something told her to wait. "Okay, baby. Dinner's at 10. Riley nodded. As soon as Kandi left the room, Riley broke down again. She pulled out the test from the sock drawer and stared at it. The 2 pink lines were still there. Still clear. Still real. She wanted to scream, to throw it against the wall, to run away from it all. But she just sat there, frozen in fear. "This is my life now. I'm gonna be a mom. But I'm still just a kid." That night, she barely ate again. She told her mom she had a stomachache. Kandi gave her a concerned look. "You've had a stomachache for 3 days, Riley?" Riley looked down. "It'll go away." Kandi didn't believe it, but she didn't push. Later, Riley opened her journal. She wrote slowly, "I feel like I'm drowning. There's no air, no light. I'm hiding from the one person who would help me the most. But I'm too scared. Too ashamed. What if she looks at me and sees failure? What if she never hugs me again? A tear dropped onto the page. She didn't wipe it away. The next morning, she couldn't get out of bed. Her back hurt. Her legs ached. And something inside her stomach kept twisting. Kandi walked in. Riley? Are you feeling okay? Riley turned to the wall. Can I stay home today? Is it the same stomach pain? Yeah. It hurts a lot. Kandi touched her forehead. No fever. It's just cramps, Riley said quickly. You want me to take you to the doctor? No. No, I'll be fine. I just need rest. Kandi narrowed her eyes but nodded. I'll check on you later. As soon as Kandi left, Riley cried into her pillow. She felt like her body was turning against her. She didn't know what was happening anymore. By afternoon, she forced herself to sit up. She opened her laptop and typed, "What to do if you're pregnant and a teenager." She read articles from scared girls just like her. Some had support. Some didn't. Some had babies. Some chose different paths. Riley didn't know what she wanted. She just knew she didn't want to be alone anymore. That night, at dinner, Kandi sat across from her. We haven't talked much lately. Riley picked at her food. I'm just tired. You know I'm not just your mom, right? I'm your safe space. Riley nodded, but said nothing. Kandi leaned forward. You can tell me anything. Riley wanted to scream. I'm pregnant. But instead she said, I know. And looked away. After dinner, Riley went back to her room. She sat in the dark, holding the test in her hand again, whispering over and over, please don't let this be real. Please don't let this be real. But it was. She felt the weight of everything pressing on her chest, her grades, her body, the secret, the shame, the loneliness, the fear. She pulled her blanket over her head and whispered, I wish I could go back in time. I wish I could undo it all. But time doesn't go backward. And Riley knew that. Tomorrow will come. And with it, more lies. More fear. More pretending. Until she couldn't pretend anymore. Until her body gave out. But she didn't know that yet. All she knew was, she was scared. And still hiding. But for Riley, it didn't feel like days. It felt like a storm that never ended. She woke up tired. She went to sleep more tired. Her body ached. Her mind never stopped spinning. She kept the test hidden. But the secret was now living inside her, growing louder every day. At school, her teachers noticed the change. Mrs. Hall, her math teacher, paused one day after class. Riley, can I talk to you for a second? Riley nodded. Mrs. Hall looked kind but serious. You've been really quiet lately. Your homework's late. You didn't finish your test last week. Is something going on? Riley shrugged. I'm just tired. That's all. Mrs. Hall gave a small smile. Tiredness happens. But this looks like something more. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. Riley nodded again. But she didn't speak. She walked out of the classroom, her chest tight. Her throat is burning. In the cafeteria, Riley sat at the far end of the table. Leah joined her. You need to eat something. Riley picked at her food. I'm not hungry. Leah sighed. You've been saying that for a week. Riley looked away. Leah reached into her backpack and pulled out a small granola bar. At least have this. Riley took it, but she didn't eat it. She just held it in her hand, staring at the wrapper like it could save her. At home, things were getting harder. Kandi was trying to talk, trying to understand, trying not to push too hard. But she could feel something slipping. Her daughter was here, but she was also far away. You haven't posted on Instagram in a while, Kandi said one night. Riley shrugged. Nothing to post. Wanna watch a movie? I have homework. Want to cook with me this weekend? I'll be busy. Kandi sat down on the couch and whispered, Where did you go, Riley? But Riley was already in her room. Door closed. Lights off. Inside her room, Riley stared at the ceiling again. That ceiling had become her best friend. It was never judged. It never asked questions. It just existed. She whispered, What's happening to me? Her stomach was bloated. Her lower back throbbed. She felt dizzy more often. And her chest was starting to feel sore heavy. Was this what pregnancy felt like? She didn't know. She was too scared to Google more. Every search just made her panic. That Friday, Riley went to school but left early. She told the school nurse she had cramps. They are called Kandi. Kandi came to pick her up. In the car, Kandi looked over and asked, "Want to talk about it?" Riley stared out the window. "It's just cramps, Mom. It happens." Kandi sighed. "It's been happening for too long, baby." Riley stayed quiet. Kandi didn't push. She just drove. But in her heart, she knew something was deeply wrong. That evening, Riley laid on the bathroom floor. The tiles were cold. Her skin was clammy. She didn't have the energy to move. The secret was too heavy now. She could barely hold it. She pressed her cheek against the floor and whispered, "I can't do this." But even the walls were silent. Saturday came. Kandi had to leave early for a quick meeting. She kissed Riley's forehead and said, "Are you sure you're okay staying alone?" Riley nodded. "I'm fine." Kandi paused. "I love you." Riley forced a smile. "I love you too." As soon as the door closed, Riley went to the bathroom. She opened the drawer. The test was still there. 2 pink lines. Still real. Still staring at her. She stared back. "I don't want this. I don't want this life. I'm not ready." She gripped the edge of the sink. Her knuckles turned white. "I don't even know how to tell her. She's gonna hate me. She's gonna think I ruined my life." Her chest tightened. Her eyes filled with tears. "I want to disappear." She went back to her room and locked the door. She laid in bed all day. No food. No water. No sound. Just silence. And fear. Later that evening, Kandi came home. She knocked on the door. "Riley." No answer. "Baby, I brought you something from your favorite bakery." No answer. She slowly opened the door. Riley was under the blanket, curled up. "You've been in bed all day. Please eat something." "I'm not hungry." Kandi sat on the edge of the bed. "I don't care if it's cake or cereal. I just want you to eat." "I said I'm not hungry," Riley snapped. Kandi stood up slowly. She didn't yell. She didn't scold. She just said, "Okay." Then softly added, "But I'm here. No matter what." And left the room. Riley turned to the wall and cried again. Her head was pounding. Her stomach was cramping. Her heart was breaking. "I can't tell her," she whispered. "I'll lose everything." She got up and went to the bathroom. I looked in the mirror again. Her eyes were dull. Her lips pale. Her skin was tired. She leaned in and whispered to her reflection, "Who are you now?" Then she reached for the sink. And suddenly everything went dark. The house was quiet. Kandi was in the kitchen, preparing dinner. She had just put a pot of soup on the stove. She was humming softly, trying to stay calm, even though her heart felt heavy. Something wasn't right with Riley. It has been days now. No smiles. No jokes. No warmth. Just silence. Kandi stared at the boiling pot, lost in thought. She remembered when Riley was 5. She used to dance in the kitchen while Kandi cooked. She used to sing off-key and laugh at her own jokes. But that little girl was gone. And something had taken her place. Something scary. Something hurts. Upstairs, Riley stood in front of the bathroom mirror again. Her face was pale. Her hands were cold. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. She hadn't slept well in a week. She touched her stomach. It felt sore. Tight. Strange. She felt dizzy. Like the floor was moving beneath her. She whispered, "I can't do this anymore." She reached for the sink to steady herself. But her fingers slipped. And suddenly, thud, the sound echoed through the house. Kandi froze. Her spoon dropped to the floor. "Riley!" She ran. Her feet hit the stairs fast. Her heart pounded. She reached the bathroom door. It was half open. Riley was on the floor. Still silent. "Riley!" Kandi dropped to her knees. She lifted her daughter's head gently. Riley's eyes were closed. Her lips were pale. Her breathing was shallow. Kandi's voice shook. "Oh my God. Oh my God. Riley, please." She grabbed her phone and called 911. Her hands were shaking. "My daughter just collapsed. Please hurry." The ambulance arrived quickly. Kandi rode in the back, holding Riley's hand. She didn't cry. Not yet. She just kept whispering, "Stay with me. Please stay with me." At the hospital, everything moved quickly. Nurses rushed in. Monitors beeped. Doctors asked questions. Kandi answered everything she could. "Has she been eating?" "No. Not much." "Any history of illness?" "No. She was fine until a few weeks ago." "Any chance she could be pregnant?" Kandi froze. "Pregnant?" The doctor nodded slowly. There were signs. Weakness. Nausea. Emotional stress. She could be. Kandi felt the air leave her chest. But she would have told me. Wouldn't she? They ran tests. Kandi waited in the hallway. She sat on a hard bench. Her hands in her lap. Her heart is in pieces. She thought about every moment she had brushed Riley off. Every time she didn't push harder. Every time she thought, maybe tomorrow. There might be no tomorrow. The doctor returned. She's stable. Kandi stood up quickly. Can I see her? Yes. But we need to talk first. Kandi nodded. We found out she is, in fact, pregnant. Kandi's knees almost buckled. Oh my God. She's about 6 to 8 weeks along. Her body is under extreme stress. She hasn't been eating. Her iron levels are low. She fainted from exhaustion, dehydration, and emotional overload. Kandi covered her mouth. She felt like screaming, crying, begging for this to not be real. But she held it in. Because her daughter needed her now. She walked into the hospital room. Riley was lying on the bed, hooked up to machines. She looked so small, so fragile. Kandi sat beside her. She touched her hand. Hey baby. Riley didn't open her eyes. I'm here. I'm not mad. I'm not going anywhere. A tear ran down Riley's cheek. Her lips moved just to whisper. I'm sorry. Kandi leaned closer. Shoo, you don't say sorry. I didn't know what to do, Riley whispered. I was scared. Kandi brushed the hair off her forehead. You should have told me. Riley cried. I thought you'd hate me. Kandi's voice cracked. There's nothing you could ever do that would make me stop loving you. You're my baby. No matter what. Riley turned to her. I didn't want to be a disappointment. Kandi's eyes filled with tears. You're not. You're strong. You're brave. And we're going to figure this out. Together. Riley sobbed. And Kandi held her. Tight. Like she was never letting go again. Outside the window, the night was quiet. But inside that room, a mother and daughter were finally beginning to speak the truth. Not with blame. Not with anger. But with love. The hospital room was quiet. Machines beeped softly. A small lamp glowed near Riley's bed. Outside, the world kept moving. Cars. People. Lights. But inside this room, time had slowed down. Kandi sat beside Riley, holding her daughter's hand gently. Riley was awake now. Tears had dried on her cheeks. But her heart still felt heavy. She stared at the ceiling. Kandi watched her, waiting. Not rushing. Not forcing. Just being there. Finally, Riley whispered. I didn't know how to tell you. Kandi leaned closer. You just did. Riley blinked. Are you mad at me? Kandi shook her head slowly. No. I'm sad that you were so scared. I'm hurt that you felt alone. But mad at you? Never. Riley wiped her eyes. I thought if you knew, you'd stop looking at me the same. Like I wasn't your little girl anymore. Kandi took a deep breath. You'll always be my little girl. Even if you're 30. Even if you're 60. That doesn't change. Riley turned her face toward her mom. I made a mistake. Kandi nodded softly. We all do. I've made plenty. Some I still think about at night. Riley sniffled. I trusted the wrong person. I thought he cared. Kandi's eyes filled with tears. Did he hurt you? Riley hesitated. He didn't hit me. He didn't force me. But he lied. He made it sound like love. Then he disappeared. Kandi squeezed her hand tighter. I'm so sorry, baby. Riley's voice cracked. I feel stupid. You're not stupid, Kandi said firmly. You were vulnerable. And someone took advantage of that. I thought I was being grown. Being grown doesn't mean having all the answers, Kandi said gently. It means being honest when you need help. That's real strength. They sat there in silence again. A soft, full silence. One that felt like peace starting to return. Riley finally asked, what happens now? Kandi leaned back in the chair. Now, we take it one step at a time. First, we make sure you're healthy again. You need rest. Food. Support. And then we talk to a doctor. You'll get care. We'll discuss options. We'll talk through every choice. Riley nodded slowly. Are you going to force me to keep it? Kandi shook her head. No. I'm going to stand beside you. Not in front. Not behind. Beside. So, it's up to me? It's your body, your life. But I will help you think it all through. You won't be alone. Tears filled Riley's eyes again. Thank you for not yelling. I thought you'd scream. Kandi gave a small smile. I wanted to scream. But not at you. I wanted to scream because I almost lost you. That scared me more than anything. I'm sorry, Riley whispered again. Kandi wiped her cheek gently. You don't have to say sorry anymore. What I need now is your promise. Promise what? Promise me you'll never hide something this big again. That you'll talk to me. Even when it's scary. Riley nodded slowly. I promise. Kandi leaned in and kissed her forehead. That's all I need. We'll be okay. We'll get through this. Riley closed her eyes. For the first time in weeks, she felt safe. Later that night, a nurse brought in a tray of food. Riley stared at it for a second. Then, without being told, she picked up the fork and started eating. Kandi smiled. That's my girl. Before sleep, Riley asked, what if people talk about me? What if they judge me? Kandi replied softly, let them. People will always talk. Let them talk about how strong you were. Let them talk about how you survived. Riley nodded. And this time, she believed it. She closed her eyes. And for the first time in a long time, she slept peacefully. Riley woke up in the hospital the next morning. This time, she didn't feel scared. She didn't feel empty. She felt held. Kandi had slept in the chair beside her bed all night. Still in her clothes. Her hand still wrapped around Riley's. When Riley opened her eyes, Kandi was already awake. Good morning, baby, she said gently. Riley smiled for the first time in days. Good morning, Mama. That morning, everything felt different. The fear was still there. But it wasn't in control anymore. Now there was something else. A doctor came in. She smiled warmly at Riley. You're doing better. You're strong. And now, we focus on getting you even stronger. She sat with them and explained things carefully. No big medical words. No pressure. Just love and care. She said Riley had time to decide what she wanted to do. She said Riley's body needed rest. She said this wasn't the end of her story. It could be a new beginning. After the doctor left, Kandi looked at Riley. I want you to know, whatever you choose, I'll be right there. If you want to keep the baby, we'll raise it together. If you choose something else, I'll hold your hand the whole way. Riley nodded. Can I take a few days to think? Of course. That afternoon, Leah came to visit. She hugged Riley tight. I'm so sorry you went through this alone. It's okay, Riley said. I was just scared. I get it. But next time, you won't be alone. The two girls smiled at each other, stronger than they were before. That night, Riley and Kandi talked more than they had in weeks. No yelling. No judging. Just truth. Riley told her everything. The boy. The pressure. The guilt. The pain. And Kandi listened. Really listened. I blamed myself too, Riley said quietly. I thought maybe I deserved what happened. Kandi's eyes filled with tears. No, baby. No one deserves to be lied to, or made to feel small. You were tricked. But now you know better. You're wiser. And you'll rise from this. A few days later, Riley was released from the hospital. She wasn't fully healed yet. But she was healing. She walked out holding her mother's hand. Head a little higher. Heart a little lighter. Back at home, things began to shift. Kandi cooked with Riley again. They sat and watched old cartoons together. They played music. They danced in the kitchen, just like when Riley was 5. One afternoon, Riley pulled out a notebook and began to write. She wrote about what happened. About her fear. Her silence. Her pain. But also about her strength. Her mother's love. Her second chance. She titled it, I thought I was broken, but I was just becoming me. Weeks passed. Riley went back to school. She still had days where the world felt too loud. But now she had tools. She had her mom. Her journal. Her friends. Her voice. One day, Kandi was invited to speak at a teen girls event. She didn't plan to bring Riley. But Riley asked to come. At the end of Kandi's talk, Riley stood up and walked to the mic. Her hands shook. Her voice cracked. But she spoke. A few weeks ago I collapsed. I was hiding something that hurt too much to carry. I thought my life was over. But it wasn't. I found strength I didn't know I had. And I had a mom who reminded me that love doesn't disappear when you make mistakes. It grows even bigger. The room was silent. Then everyone clapped. And Kandi stood beside her daughter, proud, tearful, whole. That night as they walked home, Riley said, Thank you for not giving up on me. Kandi smiled and pulled her close. Never. Not in this life. Not ever. Yellow Heart. This story was about pain. But it became a story about love. About healing. About second chances. If you're a mother, let your child talk. If you're a daughter, never carry pain alone. Because real strength is knowing you don't have to heal by yourself.